Okay, we're going to start an episode of On the Wrist from Off the Cuff. A really cool JDM gem for you guys, brought to you by Sakura Watches. In terms of this particular brand, of course, Seiko, everybody knows and loves. They were founded back in 1881. They are Japanese in origin and have factories throughout Asia. They cover all market segments from entry level to high end, and this is definitely on the entry level side, but has some pretty impressive specs. Now, in terms of the genre, this would fall underneath the everyday dress watch category. Some key characteristics and design when you're looking for something that will fill in this space. Of course, you're going to want something that's clean, classic, leaning more on a minimalist design, and of course, something that is more sensibly sized. This is out of their JDM, or Japanese Domestic Market Selection line. This is the SBPX083, and it's a super affordable and decently equipped model for both the casual buyer and enthusiast alike, and is absolutely infused with Seiko's signature design language. You can currently go down into the links and purchase this from Sakura Watches for only $120 US, and it is equipped with a sapphire crystal. Yes, that's right, sapphire, and it is a solar quartz, so no worrying about switching out batteries. So I think this is just such a cool little find. It also has that awesome kanji day disc, which is fantastic. I think that day-date combination just has such a cool vintage aesthetic to it, and you just don't see it very often. So a lot to like here. Definitely a bit of an anomaly within the market, but definitely worth also shining a light on. So happy to share it with you all. So with all that said, let's go ahead, zoom the camera out, get this piece in hand, and take a closer look. Okay, guys, now before we dive in, of course, it already is on an aftermarket strap. And some of you might be dying to know what this looks like on the bracelet, but guys, at the end of the day, this is like a $100 Seiko watch. So I'll let you know that the bracelet, no matter how good it looks, the quality wise, it's just not great. It fits well enough, and I think there'll be plenty of people that will be okay with it. But I think the main people who are going to enjoy this one are the ones who take advantage of the fact that this has a 20mm lug width. So absolute strap monster. And you can see already this dial that, although it's advertised as a black dial, I think it does render a bit more on the side of anthracite or a really deep dark gray. So I did pair that with this beautiful RSM strap. This is one of their very, very nice fabric straps, guys. Really well put together. I recently did a whole review on this particular strap, so if you do want to learn more about it, go ahead and check the channel history. And if you're interested in the strap, I'll make sure to leave a link down in the description. But I think it just dresses up this piece really, really amazingly. Now, in terms of the box, nothing special, guys. And in terms of the bracelet, again, it's serviceable, but at the end of the day, it's very hollow. Hollow end links, hollow links. It does have a push button deployment, which is nice. But other than that, guys, again, really nothing special. So I'm not going to really focus too much on the packaging or the OEM bracelet, because I think this thing just absolutely dresses up amazingly well. So in terms of the dimensions here, 37.4 millimeters in diameter, 9.5 millimeters thick, and 44.4 millimeters lug to lug, brushed and polished stainless steel case, flat sapphire crystal, guys, and it has really awesome proportions here. I'm really digging this one. I think it's going to look great, of course, on smaller wrists, but I think it's going to work well enough for larger wrists like my own at 7.5 inches, to where you're going to have a lot of versatility, whether you're buying this for yourself or possibly a loved one, because I mean, it's within that price range where you could give somebody a gift. And the nice thing is, you don't have to, it's not like when you gift somebody a mechanical timepiece and you have to worry about them winding it and teaching them all that stuff, or, you know, worrying about any maintenance costs. This is pretty much going to be, since it's solar, you'll have all the ease of use of quartz, but you won't have to worry about swapping out the battery ever. So I think that's pretty awesome. Back into some of these stats, of course, you're getting this really nice high polished bezel on the outside, which is actually a pretty decent thickness to it, which pushes the dial in. So again, if you have a smaller wrist, you're really going to enjoy this one. I think it's proportioned really, really well. Even if 37 might seem big for you, I would say the proportions make it very, very wearable. Also, look at the details on these lug horns, guys. So you don't, it's not that you have like a, you know, a super well-defined bevel there. It's actually kind of a soft bevel, but the transition into the turned lug horn there that's high polished just adds a beautiful detail that really stands out and pops when you do put this on a strap. So very nice, and you can see really nice thin case profile there, push-pull crown just like you would expect at this price point. And then a solid screw-in case back. Not a lot of water resistance, really just splash resistance at 30 meters. But the movement itself is the Solar Quartz Seiko V158, which is going to be accurate to plus or minus 15 seconds per month. And on a full charge, you'll be able to get 10 months of power reserve. So very nice. You know, basically you wear it outdoors for a couple days, and next thing you know, you leave it in a drawer, and essentially almost a year's worth of power reserve. So pretty outstanding. So if this is going to be something that you're going to put within your rotation, well, now it's definitely always going to be ready and always have juice, and it's going to be relatively accurate, right? So you can set other watches off of it, or it's really easy to rehack if you want to resync the time every once in a while manually. Now, the dial here is really outstanding. Now, of course, it does have that blue, that sunray dial finish. It is black. Again, does render a bit more of an anthracite gray, but you can see there, it's not going to be as finely finished as something you'd find on, let's say, a Persage or a King Seiko or Grand Seiko or anything like that. But you kind of get the idea, and because this is solar, I think that's actually one of the reasons why it almost looks kind of coarse, but I feel like it adds a bit of texture to the dial to have the striations so defined. So I think it actually adds to the aesthetic. So that is pretty cool in my book. Now you also do get that beautiful kanji day disc. So you get the day date complication at 3, nicely framed there, just a printed frame. But then you also do have these great indices, guys. Check them out. Really well done, multi-finished and faceted, guys. Really amazing, and that's really where Seiko absolutely excel. Hand finishing, dial work, and the cases. I mean, that's just you know, Seiko's real high efficiencies, what they're able to do at such a low price point. It's pretty amazing. 20 millimeter lug width, as we talked about, guys, and that bracelet 5-link style, but it's hollow links, hollow end links. Again, split pin construction, stamped push button folding clasp, nothing special, but you put it on a nice canvas strap here like you have from RSM straps, and man, it really brings it to life. So with that said, let's actually get this piece on the wrist and see how it wears. Okay, guys, as you can see on my 7.5-inch wrist, this wears really great. And although my wrist is a bit on the larger side at 7.5 inches, you guys can see it's also quite round. So it's not like I have some, you know, wide, flat wrist that just accommodates to every type of watch. So I am very conscious about lug to lug and proportions just as much as the next guy, even those who have smaller than 7-inch wrists. So I think this looks great. Of course, if I get my wrist a bit too close to the camera lens, you're going to get some perspective distortion. It's going to make the watch appear just a bit larger than it actually is to, let's say, the naked eye. So what I like to do is keep my wrist nice and low and then just tighten up the frame here so you guys can get still a detailed look, but just something with a bit of a truer aspect ratio. Check that out. Beautifully centered on the wrist, sits flat, nice contours, nice flowing architecture there, very organic, and man, does it really just set itself off against that canvas strap. Just really beautiful. Whew. I'm just really digging that so much, guys. Look at how thin that lays. Again, under 10 millimeters in thickness. That's just, it just hits a sweet spot. And at the size, I know some people are thinking, oh, okay, well, it's a smaller watch. You know, I have a bigger wrist. I'm not looking for that. Well, guys, a dress watch is supposed to be smaller, so this thing is in the correct scale. And then if you have a small wrist, of course, most watches are going to look a little large on you. So you're going to be looking for stuff with a smaller footprint in general. So again, I think this has a lot of great crossover potential just because there's a lot to really, really enjoy there. So with that said, let's actually get it off the wrist, set up for some loom shots, low light transition, and closing thoughts. Okay, so let's go ahead and hit the lights here. And as you can see, there's no loom, but I do always like to work in a bit of a low light transition because you're not always going to be out in the middle of a field enjoying direct sunlight. A lot of times you're going to find yourself coming in and out of buildings, walking underneath overhangs, or just hanging out underneath the shade of a tree. So it is nice to see what these colors, textures, and finishes render like in less than optimal lighting, guys. So they even include a bit of harsh lighting, which typically could expose any types of production defects, but all you're going to see here, of course, is a nice deep luster with maybe some smudges and micro scratches from me handling the watch. But man, this is just such a cool watch for the money. 120 bucks, guys. Look at that dial. Look at that day date layout. There's just something really sharp about it. The dual finish hands that are always going to be rendering as quite legible thanks to it being half matte satin and the other half high polished. And then of course that dial is very, very dynamic in terms of the level of play you're going to get, where you might have it mostly blacked out with just a little sliver of gray, or you can have it really just absorb that light and reflect it back in a really fun way. Like half the dial there almost is looking like you know, a beautiful feathery silver there. So very, very nice, guys. But of course, closing thoughts on the wrist, really classic wear for this one. It, you know, again, it's meant to be a dress watch. It doesn't feel undersized on my larger wrist, and I really doubt it will feel oversized on smaller wrists. So really nice and balanced, very light, of course, thanks to its quartz construction and, you know, having solar power. Now you're not worried about swapping out batteries, which is great. And then in terms of model variant, there are actually a lot of small size solar gems within that SBPX range, but no direct variations of this one. There are actually two white dial models that do come close. They share the same case and bracelets, but one dial uses Roman numerals and the other uses Arabic numerals, so they are going to be quite different. For me, this was my pick of the bunch. And again, there's a link down in the description if you guys are interested in kind of learning more about it or testing the waters to see, you know, what the yen exchange rate looks like and, you know, what kind of deal you might be able to get with Sakura. Now, in terms of comparable models, I mean, this at the price point, you know, you would compare it to something like a steel Timex or a mechanical Orient at a very low cost. But neither of those are going to offer you a sapphire crystal at that $120 range. So still pretty strongly spec'd, guys. And at the end of the day, you know, this is a Seiko that looks like a Seiko versus there are some cheaper watches out there that you might find that are higher spec'd, but they're essentially doing an impression of a dress watch, right? This is an impression of a Seiko from the brand Seiko. So I think that is something to, of course, you know, it goes without saying. You think about things like, you know, the Moon Swatch or even the Thrifty Fathoms, where it's just like at the end of the day, it's a real brand doing their own, you know, their design language. And even though it's a more affordable silhouette, it's something to be appreciated in terms of, you know, being a collector. And I think even apart from that, specs alone, this thing is pretty strong. And obviously I think it's quite good looking as well. So for me, guys, bottom line here, the makings of an absolute strap monster at you know, that 20 millimeter lug width. I think that enables it to be worn by larger wrists. And of course, it's still gonna be able to accommodate smaller wrists because it is smaller, right? And then this is a truly entry-level price point. You can't really argue with that at 120 bucks. You know, it's pretty much going to be entry level, right? Even if you don't like spending a lot of money on watches, you know, there's still stuff within this range, and there's not much that's below it that's going to be reliable for an everyday piece. This is absolutely going to be able to give you that level of reliability and confidence, especially with the sapphire crystal, adding additional protection and longevity against scratches. So I think that's great. So then of course you get the worry-free nature of solar, so even battery replacement is mitigated. So yeah, there's a lot to love here. Definitely check the links down in the description for one, the watch, and then two, I'll try to make sure to remember to put a link to the strap, because I think the strap is awesome. It's a great pairing. If you guys pick up both and like recreate this, definitely tag me on Instagram with your wrist shots, because I would love to see this combination just really out there and being popularized, because it just has so much potential. So with that said, let me know what you guys all think down in the comments below. If you like the video, please do like, and if you aren't already, please subscribe for more content just like this. Thanks guys.